A tranquil existence on the shore of Lake Pokegama in northern Minnesota is how 78-year-old Army veteran Jerry Mulliss expected to spend his golden years.
I don't want it destroyed by this type of garbage.
The garbage is medical bills Jerry says he should not owe.
I don't deserve this.
And a letter from the Department of Veterans Affairs saying claim denied.
Treatment provided does not meet the prudent layperson's definition of an emergency.
Drafted by Uncle Sam in the early 1960s, Jerry receives all of his medical care through the VA. But last August, a catheter he has, due to an enlarged prostate, got plugged.
Well, I was half crazy with the pain. I was moaning and groaning.
It was 8 o'clock at night, and the nearest VA hospital in St. Cloud was 140 miles away.
And I needed help now. I mean, it hurt. My heart attack was nothing compared to that urinary retention.
Jerry's wife rushed him to the Grand Rapids emergency room.
The doctor said, your urinary retention hurts as bad as a woman having a baby. I'm not a woman, but I told the doctor the pain I had was as tough as if I had triplets.
Veterans who get their medical care from the VA can go to an outside hospital in an emergency, and the VA is supposed to pay the portion not covered by other insurance. But remember, the VA is trying to stick Jerry with a bill, claiming what he had was not even a true emergency.
And I know what an emergency is. It isn't because you got a hangnail on your big toe.
Jerry says maybe the VA should try reading how the U.S. Department of Health describes urinary retention as a potentially life-threatening medical condition that requires immediate emergency treatment.
Hurts.
What also hurts is the calls from debt collectors and the threat of a ruined credit rating. Jerry says he's lost track of the time he's spent unsuccessfully trying to get the VA to reconsider his denial.
Hours. Hours. I wake up at night and think of this. Do I deserve that?
So far, the Department of Veterans Affairs refuses to respond to our direct questions about Jerry's case and those of a number of other veterans with similar denials. Is it faster to just deny?
Always.
Tonight, a VA insider speaks out, exposing how he says a quota system is sticking veterans with emergency medical bills they don't truly owe.
It is the latest in a KARE 11 investigation into whether the VA is honoring our nation's contract to care for veterans. Here's investigative reporter AJ Legault with a pattern of denial.
I remember he said, something's wrong, something's wrong.
Fearing her husband Ben was having a heart attack,
Okay.
Gretchen Krause rushed him to the nearest ER.
It felt like my chest was about to pop.
Bob Ramsey was concerned he might have clots caused by a blood disorder, so also went to a nearby emergency room.
And I was always warned if I had any issues with my leg pain, things like that, that I should be seen immediately.
Bob and Ben are both veterans, both qualified for the VA to pay for their care at a non-VA hospital in an emergency. But the VA refused, sending them denial letters.
I would have had to pay $6,000, over $6,000 out of my own pocket.
In both cases, the Minneapolis VA did an about-face once KARE 11 began investigating, admitting the denials were mistakes and agreeing to pay.
Hey, Bob.
Here's a voicemail a VA official left Bob.
The ER emergent care claims will be processed today for payment.
The second that they realize that somebody is looking into it, and somebody with an ability to make it into a national story, once they realized that, then they called and said, oh, sorry, we made a mistake. We're going to take care of it now.
But how did the mistaken denials happen in the first place? Our search for answers led us to a VA employee named Joe.
Correct.
He has a painful confession to make.
It's been weighing on me a lot.
When we met Joe, he was working as a voucher examiner for the VA's Office of Community Care. That's the office that either approves or denies emergency treatment claims like Bob's and Ben's.
A Minnesota veteran turned over to collections after
He'd seen our reports and told us he believes there are a lot more veterans out there stuck with emergency medical bills the VA should have paid.
You know for a 100% fact that there are claims being done incorrectly?
Yes.
Because you've done them incorrectly.
Yes.
An admission in direct conflict with Joe's own 2016 VA employee performance appraisal. In glowing terms, it claims he's an exceptional employee who's accurate an incredible 99% of the time.
Is that true?
Probably not.
Joe says they don't really monitor errors. What they do track and focus on is how many claims examiners complete each hour.
We are accountable for speed, and the faster you are, your performance goes up.
So just how fast does the VA expect examiners like Joe to be when they go through a veteran's often complicated emergency medical bill claim? Joe's performance review spells it out. To get an exceptional employee rating, the target for handling claims like Ben and Bob's is 22 an hour. Let's do some math. If an examiner has 60 minutes to review 22 claims, that means on average less than 3 minutes spent reviewing each one. 3 minutes to determine whether it was a real emergency, service-connected, covered by other insurance, or if they should have gone to a VA hospital instead.
We were told to pick and click and get them moving.
This Government Accountability Office report from 2014 backs up what Joe is saying in surprising detail. It found all the VA reports on emergency care claims focus on timeliness rather than the appropriateness of VA facilities' denial of such claims.
Are claims being denied unfairly because you and other claims examiners are not reading them thoroughly?
Yes.
And here's where the VA's focus on speed goes even further off the rails. Joe says it's a lot faster to deny a veteran's claim than to go through all the steps it takes to approve it.
Look for a reason to deny it. It's the fastest way to get your numbers.
In a statement, the Department of Veterans Affairs denied it has quotas, saying employees have a performance plan that measures production standards, effectiveness, quality, and customer service. This issue of emergency treatment claims came up at a congressional hearing last year.
VA is many times forced to deny a significant number of emergency treatment claims.
Why? VA told Congress in this statement it's because determination of these claims is nuanced and unclear for veterans. So how many denials are there? Carol Evan crunched 2.5 years worth of VA data and found in the VA Midwest network, which includes Minnesota, 52% of all emergency medical claims are denied. That's $65 million forced back onto veterans to pay. Nationwide, it adds up to $2.6 billion in just 1 year, leaving this VA insider to wonder how many veterans are being saddled with bills they should not owe.
Sometimes what's being denied obviously should be approved.
Yes.
That's a damning claim.
Yes.
Joe, who requested we not use his last name, no longer works as a claims examiner, but still works in a different position for the Department of Veterans Affairs. And to fact check what he was telling us, I spoke with 2 other people who worked with Joe as VA claims examiners, and they back up what he says, that the focus is all about speed and meeting the quota, or as the VA labels it, the production standard, as opposed to ensuring veterans' cases are handled thoroughly and fairly.
Well, a powerful member of Congress today is calling for a federal investigation in response to a Care 11 investigation.
Last night we reported how the VA was wrongly sticking veterans with medical bills they should not owe. And AJ Legault joining us with the latest in his continuing investigation.
Yeah, Randy, today Congressman Tim Walz, the ranking member of the House Committee on Veterans Affairs, said what he'd seen in our reports is unacceptable. And the Inspector General needs to step in and determine how widespread this pattern of denials truly is.
And when you point out a story like I saw that you ran, I think it warrants looking at it.
Congressman Tim Walz says he'd watched Carol Evan's investigation that uncovered veterans being saddled with medical debt they should not owe after rushing to non-VA ERs during a medical emergency.
The VA denied my claim, saying I was, more or less imprudent.
Some even had their bills turned over to collection agencies.
I paid the bill because it was already in collection. I didn't want that hurting my credit any more than what it already had.
We're looking into it. I think after your report, we're going to ask We'll ask the IG, as we always do, to look in a little deeper, see if this is systemic, and try and figure out how deep it goes.
A whistleblower tells KARE 11 improper denials are systemic because VA staffers are pressured to review complex files in just minutes in order to meet their required quota, or as the VA labels it, production standards.
We were told to pick and click and get them moving.
You know for a 100% fact that there are claims being done incorrectly.
Yes.
Because you've done them incorrectly.
Yes.
Let's figure out if this is a problem either in staffing or if there is a cultural issue forcing quantity or look good over actually being good. We should find that out.
If it wasn't for AJ and KARE 11, I'd be fighting this battle for who knows how long.
A KARE 11 investigation continues to make a difference in the lives of our nation's service members. Thanks for joining us tonight. We've been exposing how veterans are being saddled with medical debt they should not owe, some of it even turned over to collection agencies after trips to the emergency room.
The VA is now offering apologies and backtracking on denials for some of the veterans whose stories we've shared. Here's investigative reporter AJ Legault with the latest in his series, A Pattern of Denial.
I never say I came home, I came back.
Rocky Waite came back from Vietnam to Little Canada, Minnesota.
This is where my daughter lives.
More than 50 years ago. An Army medic, what he saw is still with him.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories.
It's part of what drove him to help his town build and dedicate a Veterans Memorial Park.
And I might be a little bit prejudiced, but I think it's the best one in Minnesota.
A proud veteran with a 100% service-connected disability.
I'm right over here.
He never expected to be fighting again in his old age with the federal agency charged with caring for those who've served.
They're the Veterans Administration, but they're not veteran friendly.
For the 71-year-old, it's a battle that began with a large kidney stone.
The pain just got to be excruciating.
He called the Minneapolis VA and was told to go to the nearest ER. He had emergency surgery at St. John's and was told in 10 days he needed a stent removed. Following protocol, he called the VA nurses hotline, asking if the stent should be removed at the VA or back at the private hospital. His VA records clearly show he was instructed to go back to St. John's.
I took their advice and went, had the procedure done. Next thing I got was a denial letter from the VA saying I didn't follow protocol.
Despite doing everything right, Rocky was stuck with a $1,200 bill.
So I did as I was told. I don't know how else you could do it.
He appealed and was again denied. Then he saw something that really made him mad.
And then I was watching the television and spotted a story on KARE 11.
Our investigation exposing other veterans with wrongful ER bill denials. He emailed us his records.
This one came in from Mr. Rocky Waite.
And we mentioned his case on air.
Sticking this veteran with a $1,200 bill. So he's now asking the question, hey, what should I do?
The very next day,
kind of almost a miracle.
Rocky got a voicemail from a VA official.
So we'll get that paid for probably today. I'm sorry about the hassle you went through.
Payment and apology. Unlike Vietnam, this is a battle Rocky can now forget.
If it hadn't been for KARE 11, I'd have still been fighting this battle, and it could go on for years with these people.
In response to our reporting on wrongful ER denials, Senator Klobuchar tells me she'll be speaking directly with VA Secretary Shulkin this week.
Makes me think that they need to change their process, and that is what I'll be talking to the Secretary about.